What if the reason people don't listen to you isn't because you're not interesting, but because you've been taught to speak in a way that makes people quietly disconnect? And I want you to sit with that for just a moment, because it changes everything you think you know about yourself. Because maybe you've tried to be clear. Maybe you've tried to sound confident. Maybe you've carefully chosen your words and still felt that subtle distance, that quiet moment where the other person nods, but something inside you knows they are no longer truly with you. And over time, that feeling begins to turn inward, and you start asking questions that feel heavier than they should, wondering if you are the problem, wondering if something about you just doesn't land the way it should. But what if none of that is true? What if the real issue is not who you are, but what you were taught to focus on? Because most people are told that communication is about words, about speaking better, about sounding smarter, about organizing your thoughts more clearly. And while those things may help on the surface, they are not what truly determines whether someone connects with you or quietly drifts away. Because beneath every word you speak, there is something else, something invisible but powerful, something that people feel before they even process what you are saying. And that is where everything begins. I want you to imagine something simple. Two people speaking in the same room. One of them is precise, articulate, logical. Every sentence is structured and correct. And yet the room feels slightly distant. People listen, but they're not fully present. Their attention flickers, their minds wander. And then the second person speaks, not perfectly, not polished, sometimes pausing, sometimes searching for words, but something about them feels real. And suddenly, people lean in, they listen, they feel engaged. And the question is why? Why does one person lose the room while the other holds it without effort? And the answer is not intelligence or vocabulary, it is something far more human. The first person is trying to be correct. The second person is simply present. And presence is what the human mind is always searching for, even when it doesn't realize it. Because communication is not about words first, it is about feeling first. And this is the part that changes everything. People do not hear you and then decide how they feel. They feel you and then decide whether to hear you. And if what they feel is tension or pressure or uncertainty, they close without even knowing why. And once they close, no amount of perfect wording can reach them. But if what they feel is calm, openness, and safety, something shifts. They lean in, they listen, and suddenly your words begin to matter. And this is why so many people struggle, not because they lack skill, but because they've been trained to focus on the wrong layer entirely. Think about the last time you felt truly understood. Not just heard, but understood. It probably wasn't because the other person used perfect language. It was because you felt safe with them, because something about their presence made it easy for you to open up. And that is the hidden foundation of all communication. Safety creates openness, and openness creates understanding. And without that foundation, words become empty, like trying to plant something in dry soil. No matter how good the seed is, it simply cannot grow. And yet most people respond to communication struggles by doing the opposite of what actually helps. They try harder, they speak more, they explain in greater detail, believing that more effort will solve the problem. But often it only creates more distance because effort can feel like pressure, and pressure makes people withdraw. So instead of moving closer, they move further away. And this is where the quiet frustration builds, because you are doing more and getting less in return, and it begins to feel confusing and personal. But here is the shift, the one that changes everything. Communication is not something you force, it is something you allow. It is not about adding more, but about removing what blocks connection, removing the tension, removing the need to control how you are perceived, removing the pressure to be perfect. Because when those things fall away, something natural begins to emerge, something that has always been there but was covered by effort and overthinking. I want to take you somewhere for a moment. Imagine a quiet forest. There are no words there, no speeches, no explanations, and yet everything communicates. A bird shifts and another responds. A deer pauses and the entire space becomes alert. There is an understanding that moves through the environment without language, and humans are no different. We are constantly reading signals, tone, posture, timing, energy, all of it. And often we trust those signals more than the words themselves, which is why someone can say they are fine and you instantly know they are not, because what they transmit does not match what they say. And this is where alignment becomes so important, because when your words and your energy match, something powerful happens. People relax, they believe you, they open, and connection becomes effortless, not because you tried harder, but because you became clearer within yourself. There's also a quiet paradox here that many people never notice. The more you try to control how others see you, the less natural you become. And the less natural you become, the harder it is for people to connect with you. So in trying to improve, you may actually be creating the very problem you're trying to solve. And this is not a flaw, it is simply a misunderstanding of how humans work. Because we are not drawn to perfection, we are drawn to authenticity, to something that feels real and unforced. So what do you do with this? How do you begin to shift something that feels so automatic? And the answer is not complicated. It begins with slowing down, giving yourself space before you speak, allowing your presence to arrive before your words, because when you rush your words, your presence lags behind and people feel that gap. And even a small pause can change the entire tone of an interaction. It signals calm, it signals confidence, it signals that there is no pressure, and that alone can make others more receptive. Then there's the shift from perfection to feeling. Instead of asking, "What should I say?" you begin asking, "How do I want this person to feel?" And that question changes everything because it moves your focus away from performance and toward connection. And when you focus on creating a feeling, your words naturally become simpler, more human, more effective, not because they are perfect, but because they are aligned with intention. Simplicity itself is another powerful change, because many people believe that more words equal better communication, but often the opposite is true. The more you say, the more you risk losing clarity, while fewer words delivered with presence carry far more weight. And this is something you can notice immediately. When someone speaks simply and calmly, you listen, not because they are saying more, but because what they say feels grounded and clear. Listening is perhaps the most overlooked part of all of this, because most people listen to reply. They're already preparing their next sentence while the other person is still speaking, and this creates a subtle disconnect. But when you truly listen, when you give someone your full attention without rushing to respond, something shifts. They feel seen, they feel valued, and in that space, communication becomes natural and effortless, not forced or strained. And finally, there is alignment, making sure that what you say matches how you feel, and if it doesn't, taking a moment to pause and reconnect with yourself before speaking, because that small act creates consistency, and consistency builds trust, and trust is what allows communication to flow without resistance. As you reflect on all of this, I want you to notice something important. None of it requires you to become someone else. None of it asks you to perform or impress or perfect yourself. It simply asks you to become aware, to notice what is already happening beneath the surface, and gently shift your focus from words to presence, from control to connection, from effort to alignment. And when you begin to do that, something quiet but powerful starts to change. Conversations feel lighter, interactions feel more natural, and the pressure you once felt begins to fade, not because you solved everything, but because you stopped fighting against something you were never meant to control in the first place. So as we come to the end of this journey, I want you to carry this with you. Speak less, but mean more. Focus less on words and more on feeling. Stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. And remember this above all else, you are not broken. You were simply taught to focus on the wrong things, and now that you can see it, you have the freedom to change it, gently, naturally, in your own way. And if something in this stayed with you, if it made you pause or see yourself differently even for a moment, then hold on to that. Let it guide you. And if you feel it,
Share your thoughts, stay connected to this space, and continue exploring these quiet truths, because sometimes the most powerful communication is not about being heard by everyone, but about being truly understood by someone, and perhaps that someone begins with you.